Let's rise to the occasion for this new Hearthstone deck video. It's Webz here, this time with Questline Paladin. The variant of the deck that I'm running prioritizes completing the quest as quickly as humanly possible in order to get out a bunch of 3 units which have Divine Shield thanks to Lothraxion. Lothraxion was a card that I've always wanted to use since it was revealed. However, the card never felt like it had a true home until now. The deck also runs a small Libram package in order to clear out big boards that you would normally not have any way to deal with in this style of deck. It also gives you access to a 1-cost card, which allows you to complete 1 out of 3 cards necessary for each individual step of the quest. For early mulligans, you want to focus on having cards that either generate you more 1-cost cards or draw cards from your deck, since a high majority of your deck are 1-cost cards. A very high chance to complete your quests pretty early on. The deck actually runs a bunch of draw power since there are a bunch of 1-cost cards that draw you into more cards, which is great for this style of deck. Now with that being said, let's get into the games. Alright, let's get into game 1 against Priest. We're going to keep one of the peasants and mulligan away the other one, which we draw into first day of school, which is great. And it's against Quest Priest, which is kind of a shock, but I've actually been running into a bunch more of these recently. And then we're going to coin out a peasant because Priest has no easy way to deal with it unless they're running Holy Smite, which isn't really a problem because they're unlikely to in Questline Priest since it's a 1-cost card. Here we're going to use a first day of school. Then play our secret, which triggers our quest. We kill the minion, and then keep our peasant for the next turn. We're filling up our hand nice and well. Priest is going to think about what to do here. You know, early on I wanted to combine hand buff into this deck, but I figured the deck would be too clunky and you would never complete your quest reward. So I went away from that style of... Here we'll play the Initiate and then first day of school to fill our hand up even more. And then play the Squirrel. And then just go face. Sure, they can kill our peasant, but peasant has done its job and gave us a bunch of more cards in our hand, and we have a second one in our hand anyways. Overall, I would say this game is going pretty great for us. I'm assuming they're playing the low spell variant of Questline Priest, which is honestly probably the best way to build the deck. It allows you to draw into your quest reward as quickly as humanly possible. You also could play the 4-drop shared legendary between Priest and Paladin in order to just complete it on that turn if you had a 1-cost spell in your hand. And looking back, that would probably be another one that I would have tried out. I forgot about the dual class legendary, but that's my bad, I guess. They're going to complete the first step of their quest. And here we draw into an Attendant and an Initiate. The Attendant will be great for discounting the blessings in our deck. However, we're probably not even going to need that given this game state right now. Here we should probably be careful about overdrawing, but I don't think I thought about that at the time. So each turn we should be drawing 3 unless they can board clear our board. And the far watch post is really annoying because of the fact that we're drawing 3. But too bad for them, we already have an entire hand of 1-cost cards to complete our quest. Here I'm going to kill the watch post because that's the correct thing to do. I probably should have ran our peasants into the watch post, so thus we wouldn't overdraw, but oh well. I also don't want to complete the quest here because I'm afraid of Mind Render. I don't want our quest reward to get stolen from us. That would be really, really bad. And I'm just assuming every single priest in the world is running that card now, because it can steal a bunch of games off of people who are not smart enough to get rid of their quest reward in their hand. Here we're going to mill 2 cards, both of which are our endgames cards, which really sucks. I really wish we hadn't milled both of those cards, but it is what it is. Here we'll complete our quest no matter what. Drawing into a Libram for later. We're going to kill the Elemental. I misplayed here because I forgot the recruit on board would gain the 2-2 stats. They're going to play Italian, which is fine. I'm assuming he'll probably draw into Primordial Elemental. I don't know what other high-end cards that they could be running. They're going to play another Watch Post, which is going to be annoying. But we completed our quest, so it doesn't really matter. And we get City Taxes, which we're just going to use to pop the Divine Shield and then make that into a 3-3, and then run it in. And then kill the Watch Post. And since we healed, we get to discover a card from our deck. We're going to grab the Libram of Justice just in case for later. They play a Forge Fiend. I'm assuming now at this point it's going to be a N'Zoth package quest priest. That's the only thing that makes any sense here. Here we're just going to kill the Forge Fiend. And then summon 2 more recruits. I'm going to build a bigger board. Buff up each individual unit instead of just one. So in case they have some type of silence. They're going to trade a card in their deck for another 8 cost. Here we're going to play our Libram of Justice just to clear it out. We're at full HP. I don't care about taking 8 damage. Probably a mistake, but we're going to get them pretty damn close to lethal. I'm not really afraid of what Priest can do. I don't think they can do 22 damage in one turn, unless they somehow miracle out the quest reward and finish their quest in the same turn. They play a Soul Mirror, which completes their quest, but it's a little too late for them to even attempt to do that. Sure, it gives them a taunt, but that's really not going to do much for them. Especially because we can just clear it with the weapon. So we win the game here. Alright, time for game 2 against Warlock. There's a high chance that this is going to be some variant of Quest Warlock. To be honest, there's a very low chance it's anything else. We're going to mulligan 1 card to get a first day of school, which is great for us. And they play the questline to no one's surprise. Now we just need to figure out if it's hand lock or it's D6 lock. Here we're just going to play our 1-1 with Divine Shield. They're going to coin out a card, which is the Mithril Rod. It's kind of sad that that's the only profession item that has seen any type of meta relevant play. I guess it could be the mount mechanic instead, which I don't think any of them have seen any play besides maybe the priest one in Questline, but that's kind of a stretch. We're just going to draw into another card here, get a tour guide, which allows us to use our hero power if we want to, or save it for later. Saving it is actually probably the best option since we can get double the value out of a free hero power. They're going to destroy some of our board. Trigger the first part of their quest. We're going to get a very wide board here. And because we can't complete our quest yet, I'm just going to play Lothraxion. There's no reason not to. This is actually one of the few games where he came up that was useful. It sucks that he's a 5-cost unit. If he was maybe like a 3-cost with a lower stat line, then he would be a lot more playable in this deck. Or hell, maybe make him like Benedictus, where it's the start of a game effect. In order to use his effect, you have to run only 1-cost cards or something like that. Or X number of cards that have Silverhand Recruit in their text. We're going to get the second step of our quest. Get plus goods, which is a guaranteed another 1-cost card. Get a savior. Then draw into another 1-cost card probably. Which is another tour guide, so we're just going to hero power here and get to 1/1s with Divine Shield. The game's actually going pretty well. We're swarming the board pretty quickly, though Questline does have a lot of ways to heal themselves, so we could get outplayed there. I'm assuming they're playing some type of Soul Fragment Questline deck in order to heal for a bunch. We're going to reduce the Libram's cost in our deck by 1, and then get our quest reward. And on top of getting our quest reward, we can use the tour guide to get 2 3/3s with Divine Shield. We're in an incredibly strong position at this point in the game. They get a Stealer of Souls out, which should mean death for us, but they're going to draw into a bunch of soul fragments probably. As long as they don't get enough cards to complete their quest in a turn or two, we should be fine. So a lot of odd choices in this deck that they're playing. We're going to get our Savior triggered. Like, I get Armor Smiths conceptually in the deck, but at the same time, it just seems like it would be better to run a bunch of cards that would heal you instead of them. We're going to kill the Healer of Souls and go face. Here I'm just trying to calculate if we had lethal without killing the Stealer of Souls, but we didn't, so I wanted to get rid of it as quickly as humanly possible. Their hand is looking pretty empty, so there's no worry of them somehow filling out the board. They have a Gadget Stands Auctioneer, which is, again, another odd choice for the deck. I don't understand why. I guess it's a more miracle style of deck. and we win the game here. Alright, now that we're through the games, let's get into the discussion of how well the deck did, and why I built the deck the way I did. The deck actually performed alright. It wasn't the best deck in the world, and it wasn't the worst deck in the world. It actually plays very similar to something like Face Hunter, where you want to win early game or mid game before the opponent has any chance to play their big minions, which is why you're running some of the cards in the deck such as Liberum of Justice and Lady Prestor in order to give you some type of late game plan instead of relying on a bunch of one cost minions. Overall, Liberum of Justice probably performed better than Lady Prestor. I don't think I actually ever got Lady Prestor off in a combo. Many of the games were decided by finishing the quest quick enough. If not, then you just lost the game. However, it was nice to have a backup plan if you needed it. The way I built this deck, most of the cards actually draw you other cards or generate more cards, which allows you to refill your hand when you complete each individual part of your quest. The cards that I would say probably performed the worst in the deck were sadly Lothraxion and Lady Prestor. Both of the cards were included in the deck so you would have a late game plan after you completed the quest. Lothraxion was there in order to make your boards way more sticky when you had a bunch of Silverhand recruits, but since you only had the 2 recruits each turn, it didn't always necessarily come up, and a lot of the times you would draw into Lothraxion too late. To help with consistency factors, Talion probably would be better to include than one of these two, so you could just always draw into the other one that you kept in the deck. The Liberum package was something that I messed around with quite a bit. At first I included basically the entire Liberum package, which was alright. It gave you a much clearer endgame board. However, it didn't allow you to complete the quest that quickly. So then I cut it down to the Attendants, the Liberum of Wisdoms, and the Justice, because those individual 3 cards allowed for different scenarios to be dealt with. Wisdom, for example, when it was discounted by 1 attendant, allowed you to have access to a 1-cost card always in your hand for each individual step of your quest. This came up a lot more frequently than you might have expect, and it was also a good way to help finish out the game. While Liberum of Justice allowed you to clear out the boards when comboed out with City Tax, and Attendant was just included because it's a 1-cost card, and then it makes another card in your deck 1 cost. Overall, I would say the deck is decent enough to want to play or test out if you have the quest. It's a relatively cheap deck, which you can make even cheaper by cutting out Lothraxion or Lady Prestor. These cards, you could easily place one of them with Alien, which is a guaranteed legendary from the core set, and then just run the other one. And besides that, most of the cards in this deck are either common or rare. So give it a chance if you want to run a deck similar to Face Hunter, which is not actually a Hunter deck. And if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. And until next time, bye bye.